7 o'clock, we will call our meeting to order for our special meeting, May 7th, 2024. Let us stand and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Clerk Trapp, could you please call the roll?
Bartholomew?
Here.
Edwards? Fowler?
Yes.
Kerr?
Here.
Parker? Rousseau? President Poznanski?
Here.
We have 5 present.
Okay, we move into the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
So we have a motion by Kerr, support by Rousseau. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are no opposed. We have public comment. Does any of the public want to comment? I think we're good. Moving into our unfinished business, our Village of Romeo Road repaving project bid for the east side. We had a total of 6 companies, correct, Catherine?
Yes.
A total of 6 companies put on here for us the 3 lowest. Of the 3 lowest, would like to mention, I don't know how we walk through the legal issues. Allied Construction, there were 3 companies in the last few years that have been, I want to be careful in my phrasing, is it like contract tampering, I guess is the best word to say. So anyways, the federal government disqualified them for bidding on any federally funded projects. So now they're coming into municipalities or places that don't have federal funds and kind of undercutting in order to try and get work now that they've kind of.
Why did the federal government?
They were, again, I have to be careful in my wording. They were alleged, there was alleged colluding between the 3 of them for, and ensuring each other got work at kind of thing.
Yeah.
So one of those companies is Allied Construction, and that is our lowest bid. Proline and James P., those 2 are the next 2 and 3, and those fall within, I mean,
It's like $1,200.
it's like they are pretty spot on between the 2 of them. So just so that we all know the players here and the 3. Proline is also who we used in the first phase, but because we must go out for bid, we can't secure the next contractor, so here we are. Danielle is here from our accounting to talk us through our options and how to pay for this and what to do, because essentially bids came in over what we have left, for more than what we have left in the bond. So
Okay. So, my name's Danielle Kelly. I work with Plant Moran, and we're contracted to provide accounting services to this village. I have Julie DeClerc with me. She also works with me on the village's books. So, as Megan said, when the bids came back, we decided to do an analysis to see, okay, how much did this go over? How are we going to pay for it? And what are our options? So, I put together for you a bid analysis, and I believe Megan and Catherine have printed that out for you. I'd like to first go through how we did our estimate so everybody has kind of an idea of where this is leading to. So, up on the screen, you'll see this page is called Bid Analysis. So on your packet, the top, you'll see Company A, Company B, Company C. This alludes to Allied, Proline, and James P. Contracting. We obviously don't want to influence your decision on the contractor that you choose, so that's why we relabeled them. And for illustration purposes, we chose the middle bid, which happens to be Proline, just so we can walk through the costs for this. So the original estimate for all 4 quadrants was about $6.2 million, and that included an estimate of 16% of that would be engineering. Looking at the bids for the northeast and the southeast quadrant, it looks like they have, based on the calculations, they've come almost 80% over the original estimate from the engineering firm. The result of that is that, as Megan alluded to, we will spend all of the bond money plus some by just doing these 2 quadrants, not even considering the southwest quadrant, which is why we're having this meeting today. So part of that work is water sewer work. So this analysis has taken that out of the equation because water and sewer will pay for their portion of the project. And we also have an MDOT grant that will help cover some of the costs, and why Megan brought up Allied Construction. We've contacted MDOT. We read through the agreement with them on this grant. They still haven't told us whether or not there's any federal money. We should probably go with the assumption for now that there is some federal money tied to that, meaning that Allied may not be able to fulfill the contract. Just keep that in mind. We don't know 100% sure, but I think we should just kind of keep that cognizant when you're coming up with your decision. So splitting this out over the different quadrants and looking at how much bond money has been spent so far, we will be about $672,000 over the bond amount doing the east side streets according to these bids. For estimating what the southwest quadrant would be, obviously we have not gone out to bid for that yet, but we went ahead in this analysis and assumed that that will also come in about 80% over budget, meaning that the total amount over what we've issued in bonds will be about $4.8 million. That's a lot of money. So we have some options. This project is expected to last through fiscal year '27. So we've gone ahead and split that project out. Northeast and southeast quadrant are expected to have a little bit of work done fiscal year '24, and then majority of the work done fiscal year '25. And then the southwest quadrant, once it's gone out to bid, is expected to be done in fiscal year '26 and '27 split evenly. So we're looking at a little bit of a forecast here in order to see how we're going to fund this. So moving on to the impact on the municipal street fund. So Fund 204 is the municipal street fund. This is where the tax money for the bond millage is held and where we are paying the bills out of for this project. So you can see this is our actual projected, our current recommended budget that you have in front of you, and then our forecast for fiscal year '26 and fiscal year '27. Just for your information, the budget that you have in front of you that was sent to you a couple weeks ago, that was based on the original engineer's estimate of the $6.2 million because we didn't have the bids back. So obviously, once a decision's made today, we will update the budget and send you a new one based on the decision that's made today. So when you're looking at your budget, just keep that in mind, that that number has to change. But in this forecast, we've included what the bid will be. And so you can see here in the orange what each of these projects is estimated to cost in the municipal street fund. Again, this is taking out water and sewer, as well as some of the sidewalks as well. So when we just do the math of how much money we can take in, how much we're gonna spend out, we come to about a $3.2 million deficit in fiscal year '27 after all the projects are done, and assuming the southwest quadrant comes in 80% over budget, similar to the east quadrant, the 2 east side quadrants. Obviously, that is illegal. We can't do that. So how do we fix it? There's 2 ways that we can fix this. We can do a transfer from the general fund to cover it over the next couple of years. And we'll go through the general fund impact on that. And we can also increase the levy, put it on the ballot to increase the municipal street fund from 1.5 mils to 3.5 mils, as well as do a transfer in from the general fund in order to alleviate that pressure that would be put on the general fund. So that's kind of your 2 options you have available to you. Obviously, if you put it out on the ballot and it fails, then we would be back to option 1, or we can speak with the attorney and see if that's something that the board can do itself. Obviously, you may not want to do that, but that's also an option. So this is the impact, and this is also keeping that fund balance as minimal as possible, to not funnel to keep the general fund's money within its own fund, only to support this project. So that's your two options. So we can look at the general fund and how that impacts it. So we have here our general fund budget, the same idea. We have 23, what we think will happen in 24, what we have recommended in 25, and then our forecast for 26 and 27. So if we were to use general fund money to, and not do a millage, we would be able to keep the general fund in decent condition. We do also have in front of you a fund balance policy for you to consider. And even with that new fund balance policy, you would still be above your fund balance, like bare minimum, according to that policy, by about $500,000 if you were to totally fund it through the general fund. If you were to get the additional 2 mills, you would be about $1.4 million in fiscal year 27 over your fund balance policy. Now, there is a third option for this, and it only affects the general fund. You could also go out and put on the ballot a Headley override, which would reset the mills back to 12.5. Right now, they're at about 10.8. And that would obviously alleviate some of the pressure as well, because it would give the general fund more funding to do the transfers to the municipal street fund. So those are the 3 options we've come up with to help fund this project, to keep it going. I guess I'd like to open it up for discussion. What do you think of it? Do you have any other ideas? Please ask any questions that you have, or if you need any clarification on the options.
I'm thinking about the money that we have invested
Mhm.
and the interest that that's earning.
That is included in this forecast.
It is.
Yeah, so that's in the other revenue line,
Okay,
right here. There's multiple things in that line, but interest is part of that.
that's it. Okay, thank you.
The only thing I want to reiterate is that we are already talking about the override in consideration of the fire contract, so that is something that we're talking about. And that also, there would be the 4th option of going out for another bond.
Yes, that is an option.
If we wanted to go out for another bond for a certain amount of money to cover that last portion of the project. The benefit, per se, I guess it depends on which side of the table you're sitting on and how you're looking at it. Bonding is a benefit is in that generally falls off after, say, 15 years, whatever your recovery cost is there. Whereas mills, that's indefinite, and then it starts to roll back from where you're at. That's not going to stop. However, we also then have new roads that we need to maintain. So there's this sweet spot of which we're really not going to know till we start walking through this. Just throwing that out there for all of us.
Thank you.
So it's not totally bad news.
And we do have to your point of interest that we make, you make interest off of the money you have in the bank, and if we spend all the money, we're not making as much interest returns. So there's, we have the money, good, let's use it, and also just be aware, don't expect the same returns, obviously.
So do you know for the average homeowner, if we went from a 1.5 to a 3.5, what that will cost the average homeowner in Romeo?
Yeah, let me see if I can find that. We did that calculation on a separate
Are you
spreadsheet.
talking about Headley or
No, the increasing from 1.5 to
for
3.5
this
mils in the municipal street fund.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find that. I think it's here. I feel like I did this so long ago.
I feel it was like around 200.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Would we also have the option of just trying to go out for one additional mill and then paying out of the
Yeah.
general fund?
You're right, Megan. It's about $197
Based on,
based on a taxable value of $92,000 of your house. That's usually about half the fair value. So 92,000 times 2 would be about the fair value of your house. That's the rule of thumb, the taxable value,
So give or take.
give or take.
What's your question, Nolan?
Would we have the option of just going out for one additional mill and paying out of the general fund for the rest?
Yeah, do we wouldn't have
There's-
to grab two. That was just the suggested when we
Yeah.
first did this whole thing.
Yeah.
It was bond and do two additional mills to not only help pay, but continue care and maintenance.
I got
But
you.
yes,
So
there's
you don't have
that,
to use both of them.
divide both,
Mhm.
like you're saying,
Mhm.
take one mill for, so 1.5 to 2.5,
Mhm.
and the Headley override, and then we see where we're at that point in time.
Yeah, there's a couple different
Yeah.
ways to skin the cat.
Yeah. We can
Like-
also ask for the two.
Yeah.
For instance, we have neighboring townships who have asked for up to, say, 10 mills for fire ALS, but they only are at levying 5 point whatever, because that's all they need. Just, we can ask for the 3.5, and we don't necessarily have to levy that every
Right.
year. That gives you room to go, well, we find out what we need and we levy at that amount, but we have the ability to go up to that much.
Mhm.
Specifically for roads, we couldn't use it for anything else.
Correct. You're in a road enterprise fund for roads.
Mhm.
if we do the Headley, that was roughly 2.5 compared to 2 additional mills. How does that, in comparison, affect the homeowner?
Yeah, so if you were to do a Headley override, so go back, you're at 10.3 now. If you go up to 12.5, that'd be a $234 increase in their tax bill. If you go from 1.41 to 3.5 in the municipal streets funds, it's 197, so a difference of about $30.
So it's better for the homeowner to go that route.
What? If you were going to do both, you're looking at 400 and,
If you're gonna do both, yeah.
yeah.
I thought it was either one or the other.
Those are all the options.
Those are all the
Both,
options.
one, other, bond.
Mhm. The Hadley override, it does have the risk that it fails, because it has to go on the ballot.
Mhm.
But then the bond falls off eventually.
So a house that's valued at about 190 would see with both roughly $430 increase yearly.
And that's going to stay, that's not going to fall off like a bond would. You're going to see, currently, you see your bond on your tax bill right now, we're down to what, 14 years now that you're going to see that longer? And that will fall off. These will reduce, but only by the override rollback, which is not going to be the same.
It's usually about 1%. So it's usually, you do whatever the mill is, and usually it's about like point, I think our rollback this year, we got it from Macomb County, I think like a week or two ago. It's like 0.998. So 12.5 times 0.998, so it's like 1% that it falls off each year.
Now, to just be clear, for tonight, that's not a
Yes.
decision that we're making.
No.
This is, I wanted Danielle to come explain all of this so that as we're picking a company and what our road work is for this year, we are thinking with what comes next. The next decision will be, is going to need to inform our decision tonight.
So, without doing either, we can cover this, is what you were saying.
Yes, you can cover it with the general fund and still stay within your fund balance policy, and you would be over your policy by about $500,000.
But we have to remember our fire contract and our new roads will need maintenance. So at some point, we will have to do something to pay for the care of the roads. Whatever that is. We're gonna have to turn in our hot patch box for a, what do you call it, the striping,
Crack filling?
yes. We're gonna have to retire one and buy a different one. So for our decision tonight, we have our three companies, Allied, Proline, James P. Do we have discussion on the contractors?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, not obviously, but I'm not interested in doing Allied. I don't think that's a safe and responsible idea. The other two are competitive, so,
Just happy with the work that Proline did. this
I like
last
the
time
work that
around.
Proline did, and the way they did it.
They're both local, so I appreciate that.
Me too.
We do have good working relationship with Proline.
And just to, I mean, all of them have it in here, I'm guessing it's, standard, but I did notice that there's sprinkler lines, sprinkler heads, sprinkler relocating.
Yeah, so some people put in their easement, if there's something in the easement that gets damaged, you'll see as you come into the meeting, the new grass that we go, or part of it is rehabilitation in the fixing of whatever might get broken or ruined in the process. So anybody who had equipment put in their easement, dug out in order to put the curb in, the dirt's put back, it's seeded, it's tried, rehabilitated back. So should that happen, something get done to somebody's sprinkler in the easement, it's fixed.
My understanding is residents aren't supposed to put sprinklers into the easement. That's against our ordinance. When I even looked at it, both houses, and I was told, no.
Okay.
So I don't know why we would pay to redo something that has been put in against our ordinance.
right, but if it's non-conforming, that doesn't mean it's okay for us to break it either.
It shouldn't be there.
Do you wanna start a more issues out of it? I mean,
How about putting in a contingency fund?
Yeah.
Not everything on here gets done. At the end of the project, some things are, there's less, there's more of one
Right.
thing or the other.
That way it solves the problem there and it solves this problem.
It's an assumption of, should this happen, this is captured. So we don't have, it's going to be override or, over budget, but this helps contain it.
Did that happen in the north quadrant we did already? We replaced some sprinklers?
I don't know.
Was there any sprinkler systems in the right-of-ways in the northern quadrant?
I can't answer
Danielle,
that question. I'm an
Yeah,
accountant.
we'd have to ask the contractor.
Yeah.
We'd have to ask
Sorry.
our engineers.
So how come you can't roll that into a contingency? As opposed to if you need to use it, the funds are sitting there. If not, then we're not actually paying for it.
That's how it works, Zach.
Well, no, how it works is, if it's there, then yeah, you pay for it, you draw on the funds, but the way that the contract is right now, they get the money regardless whether it's there or not.
I believe they bill you based on work done. So
Work
if that
done?
work
Yes.
isn't done,
Thank
then
you.
we
So
shouldn't get billed for
it'd be
it.
specifically clear on that purpose, so if they don't find any
Yeah.
sprinkler system,
Correct.
they're not billing for that
Yeah.
sprinkler system.
yeah, it looks
If
like
they
there's-
quote for 130 feet of curb and they only do 100 feet of curb, we're only billed for 100 feet of curb, not 130.
The bills are very detailed.
So if they're detailed, we could probably figure out how many sprinkler heads if we had
Mhm.
to. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like they're
Absolutely.
estimating 10 each on each phase.
Mhm.
And we do have the flags at the front desk, the blue sprinkler flags, because there are times that they will need to be in your, if they need to be in your yard, they need to be aware of that, because not all of it is about the easement. So. It sounds like we're comfortable with Proline. I would make the motion to go with Proline Asphalt Paving Corporation.
One second.
So we have a motion by Poznanski, support by Parker. Can you call the roll?
You need to list the dollar amount in that motion.
You want the dollar amount?
If you just want to say it, I will include it in the minutes.
I'll do it for the total amount bid for phases 1 and 2 in the amount of $3,569,000. I don't like this, but $666.
Okay.
Can we just put an extra dollar in there?
Round it, 56. 67 and 2 cents. Okay,
My support stands.
okay, thank you. Poznanski,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Rousseau,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Care.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
If we could all keep in mind the discussion that we had and maybe start even talking with residents and where they would prefer for us to head with the continuance of the project and what they would maybe like to see us do in form of bond, rollback, or mills.
Or combination.
Any combination, pick
Yep.
one. Yeah. Difference is, though, with the mills, just for the road, that's not going to help cover fire. We can't pull that out for fire contracts, just so we all understand that. Okay, moving into our new business, we have our general fund, 101. I had started out taking everything out and doing it into sections, and then at the last meeting we were all at, gave everyone the whole thing, so that we can just pull them out as we go. Go ahead, Danielle.
Okay.
You have the floor.
All right, so because the bid analysis that we just went through affects both of these funds, it seems fitting to review both of these funds' budgets today. So you all had that context in mind of what will happen in the future or what decisions need to be made. So, but for now, we're just focusing on the fiscal year 25 budget. It's for both general fund and municipal street fund. So, overview for general fund. State shared revenue and local community stabilization payments are expected to remain consistent. And we will get those updated estimates from the state in May, so probably within the next week or so. So we can provide more accurate numbers on that, but we've put in our best guess for this budget. The highlights for different departments are Village Hall and Grounds. There will be some staff restructuring due to the retirement of the building clerk. And so included in the budget is a part-time employee to shadow her, to learn everything she knows for the majority of the fiscal year. And that person's wages will be split 50-50 between the general fund and the building department while she learns all of those different tasks. Capital outlay is expected to be about $111,000 and consists of $15,000 for a new building generator. Half will be paid by the police department, and $96,100 for Village Hall repairs, which will be offset with the remaining ARPA funds that we have left over. The police department includes an additional position for the hiring of a superior officer. Capital outlay requests are $35,000 and includes half the cost of the generator that was just mentioned, and $20,000 for a placeholder, but I believe that will be earmarked for the cameras in car, correct?
We will need to touch on the police department as this portion was set into place by past chief. New chief coming in has putting things back in order, and so there are more things that need to be addressed currently. that we
Yeah,
can
so
touch
this
on.
budget was put together at the direction of the previous police chief. Fire department, we have a new 3-year contract with Bruce. The fiscal year 25 payment is expected to be $780,000, which is a 6% with a 6% increase thereafter for the next 2 years. The fiscal year 26-27 forecasted includes a budgeted transfer to the municipal street fund project based on the initial project estimates, like we just talked about. We did this budget before we got the bids, so that will obviously need to be changed. We will send you updated estimates on that after this meeting. So just to do some highlights, fiscal year 25 budget appears to be about $200,000 over the projected for 2024. That is mainly due to interest earnings on our new investments. And here you can see the different departments that are in the general fund and their totals. We kind of already went over the highlights in the previous slide. So I'd like to open it up to any questions on any particular department that anybody has after reviewing their budget, and we can go through those together before we move on to municipal street fund. And I can pull up the budget if you'd like me to on the screen.
Quick question.
Yep.
This question was given to me this morning, and I couldn't recall. Is it out of the general fund 101 where we pay for tree trimming and tree cutting down for the village?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I'd have to double check that,
Okay.
but I think that sounds right. I believe that comes out of Village Hall and Grounds.
Okay.
Anybody?
Okay, because it was just requested that the amount that was budgeted the current fiscal year, can that be the same amount for next fiscal year
Mhm.
also? But I think it
Yeah,
is. Okay.
yeah. Are you specifically talking about tree board?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, I
was gonna
know
say,
their
that
budget.
one's like just a little bit increased, but okay, we'll look. I'm
Right,
sure
and
that's
I
in
know
there.
that they just started going into their budget with some expenditures.
Okay,
As I go from the bottom up, the planning commission has about a $9,000 increase. What do they do that would,
yep. So let's go ahead and pull that up.
That's our village planner. Probably our village planner, because every time she's requested to do something by the planning
Yes.
commission.
Yeah, that's jogging my memory now, yes. Those accounts have gotten increased activity.
She takes direction from the planning commission board of reviews and opinions and drafts.
Close
Yeah,
this, there we
each
go.
time we send it back, it costs us money.
so we anticipating that much
Oh, that's just the
planning or
memo.
growth?
Yeah, is that going to be on?
No, I think they're just
on
basing
trend?
it off of, yeah, how
Historical.
much currently over average that
Excuse
she's
me.
being asked to,
Okay.
and they're just projecting it forward.
Okay, sorry, had to find the right file. Okay, so planning commission, let me get down there. Make this a little bigger.
And are we charging enough for permits and stuff? to
Okay.
cover all that?
Planning commission?
We
Yeah,
just
she's
up-
highlighted.
Yep,
We
yeah.
have a
So
side
CIP
conversation.
planning for $10,000 in the planning commission, under account 101-400-803-000.
And say, what page was that? Mine's not
Capital
numbered.
improvement planning?
That is page, in the budget book. That is page,
We have page numbers.
there's no page numbers on here.
I was to say, but
They're
mine's not
not
numbered, so
Sorry,
it
guys.
doesn't,
Mine's
Oh.
page 4, but I think I have a different copy.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, and now it's frozen. So it would be Department 700. 101-700, I believe, right? Or did I say that wrong?
400,
400, thank you.
no problem.
Sorry, my computer is frozen.
There we go.
There we go.
Gotcha.
So it looks like we just under budgeted that for the current year, because in 22-23 it was at 12.6.
Yes.
So it looks like there was a mess up.
I don't think there was a mess up. I think just she hasn't had as much activity, and now they're planning to have the same level of activity as they had in fiscal year '23.
What year did we switch? Was that 2022, 23, or the year before that?
I think that was the beginning of 23.
Beginning of 23. 'cause
Yeah,
it was at the
Casson
end of
stepped
22,
down,
he stepped down.
end of 22.
Yeah, so it would have been that year.
We have a note in there for our CIP planning. I am trying to get us a grant for that. But it's in there in case we don't. Seeing to what I can get to happen for us in that regard.
So I guess I'm,
Since we're looking for money to pay for the roads, should we do a wage freeze? And I'm looking for an additional $10,000 here for our clerk. I mean, we could continue on with 23, 24's numbers. Freeze it, because you're gonna go into the general fund anyway to help pay for your roads, so let's start looking that way to freeze some wages here going on.
well, I think there's more beyond wages too we could do. I mean,
I mean, I don't
it's
want
hard to take.
I don't want to tax the
things.
people, period. And that's
Right.
on that.
It's hard, but when I look at this, like, you know, $4,000 for education and training for the planning commission, that's kind of I don't know what education and training they do, but that sounds like a lot to me. So if we just look at all those little things that maybe we could either maintain or trim a tiny bit,
Because
that
I
might.
think if you wanted to trim out the planning commission, they've only been, when did we institute wages for planning commission?
Was it 22 or
21.
last year?
22.
It's only been a couple years, and the
It's not
wages
much.
are at,
That's what I was on, this was
Oh, this was
22.
before.
I mean,
All
before
of
we
it.
hit the people, we
Yeah.
should hit ourselves. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Because everybody on the planning is paid part-time, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And there's pensions, hospitalization, life insurance.
So that is a
Part of that gets
function,
pulled out to cover,
Yeah, other,
yeah.
That's Cindy's.
that's
Yeah.
Cindy,
Yeah.
yes, because,
Which-
is that all, that's all Cindy?
yes,
Correct.
yeah.
That's
None of
the-
the planning commissioners have any benefits through the village.
Okay.
It's just
Right.
for Cindy.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Can you go back to your original? first
original
budget that
slide?
everybody's-
Sure.
Yeah, the first slide. Where you had all the
This one?
departments, yes. No, it was the other one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that was it, you're
Oh,
correct.
okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Is all the education and training for Cindy as well, or do any folks on the planning commission?
oh no,
use it?
that's for the whole commission, that's
That's
the
the
9
whole
members.
commission.
Everybody.
Their
I would
entire-
love for them to use it.
Right.
Go get educated, do it again, find something else. They tend to not.
We can do some shuffling around with these.
Mhm.
There's at least $50,000 we can see.
And then, Zach, how would you feel if, once we came to a conclusion with the roads and the ALS and all of that good stuff, would you be open to part way through the year possibly doing raises if we can pull it
Yeah,
all off?
I mean, but if we're gonna hit the people, then we need to hit ourselves first. That's what I look at. We gotta make some adjustments here.
When you say ourselves.
I say, I'd be
are
more
you
than
referring to
willing.
this table?
Well.
I'd be
I'm
more
really-
than-
I'm
With like
referring,
DPW.
I'm
Yeah.
referring to, I mean, DPW, they'll love to keep the 24 freeze as opposed to, they're going down here in
I don't think we can, they're in
Well,
contract.
yeah, they're under
They're-
contract,
they're
so
union.
Yeah.
that can't,
That's
Right,
what
Right,
I'm
so
talking
all
about.
you're really
Done.
talking about are the 3 elected in the office.
okay.
Oh, those-
Are you talking
Yep.
about like the planning commissioners' wages
We
they
could-
get each meeting and our wages we get each meeting?
Yes.
Ours are set by in the ordinance,
Mhm.
ours aren't going to be rolled, so is the
Make an
planning,
extra 10 grand here.
doesn't
I
change.
mean, it's Council, hell, we freeze ourselves.
That includes
Every
benefits.
1,000 counts.
I don't get that much of a raise every year, it's benefits.
Just in my opinion.
Time to tighten the belt.
If you can find it, we will cut it.
Can we turn the lights off on the gazebo at night or all day long?
They're going to be cut off. We have still not been given rights back to our equipment. I've asked multiple times, been told that we would, and we haven't, so they're going to be cut off,
Okay, well, there's one.
unfortunately.
I know how to flip a breaker.
What about things, and why we're kind of brainstorming then, I know we don't want to get into too much detail, and I promise I'll stop, but things like overtime for the Peach Festival is $2,300. Is that billable maybe back to whatever cost that overtime? Like, you know, if the
Where'd you see
Lions are
that?
asking for someone down there, or
What part was that in?
permits.
She's talking DPW, I mean,
DPW.
you've got overtime and you've got basic wages that are set aside
Right.
just for Beach Festival also,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
police,
true,
I believe
too.
police
Same
is
It's
with
included
over,
in that.
yeah, 3,700.
The
So-
conversation's been started. It's been started. That's about it. It's not that they are requesting more there, it's that more is going on, so we have more of our, happening on our own streets that needs to be taken care of.
Okay. So many years ago, and I don't know how it worked with our department, but there used to be security that was hired.
By whom? Who is hiring what?
Well, I believe, I can't say for sure, I believe it was maybe the Lions.
They
They would
do.
hire Great Lakes Protection. And I'm wondering if they hire another company like that, if that would help alleviate some of those types of things. Not that I want that group policing our streets, but you know what I'm saying? If that goes back into place, would that help?
I just don't see how that would help offset anything, because we're still having people, the village is still just as busy, and there's still all the parking and all the things going on that our police are responsible for.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
saying?
Yep.
So you could say, sure, we're gonna do less, and then our people won't get a reduced service that weekend.
Yeah, I was thinking if they went back to hiring the security firm, it might
They
help
do.
take the
They do.
pressure off.
It's not about what happens on the Lions Field property.
I think it went a little bit beyond that, but I'm,
Yeah, I don't think they have jurisdiction to do anything outside of their property.
No, they can't write tickets for cars parking illegal.
Or
Right.
police the streets even around the neighborhood. That would, they wouldn't, but they do staff people on their grounds to keep that.
okay.
And I think our guys typically just stand right outside, one or two,
Okay,
and take care of the overflow.
okay.
We are actively, Chief is already on it, made connections with the Lions, seeing what couldn't be done to assist better, or if they would be willing to have us. Starting conversations.
Okay, thanks.
They were surprised by the amount of money when I did present it to them. They'd had always heard of the cost, but never actually seen it in form, that how much it cost us. I reiterated that, yes, it brings money to the village in the form of the businesses where the residents pay that bill. So it's not, there is a give and a take, and it's not the businesses footing that bill. So there's been a conversation, however it happens. They pay all of it, 50-50, maybe it goes a third between the DDA if that's the entity that is represented that's making the most, benefiting the most. Starting the conversation.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the next slide on the general fund, just to show the overview. So we're expecting to add $678,000 to the fund balance in fiscal year '25 based on this budget. Again, that's before adjusting the transfer for the bid that came back, so that number will go down. We also need to add in a couple lines on the ZBA for the ZBA wages. So that will be in the next packet that you get, as well as we got today an invoice for the 911 dispatch maintenance for the contract, so we will add that in as well.
Do we want to talk about, I don't know, Chief, if you'd like to address some of the things you're finding currently that we might need to address? I asked him to start writing a necessity list of now and soon. And there are a few things that are happening that will have to happen this fiscal year. We don't have prices yet. He's only been here for less than 2 weeks. Finding that in-car cameras are going to be obsolete in a year. Body cams, similar situation. We just ordered Kevlar vests. I mean, we have things, cameras within and without the department don't work. Getting quotes on that. There are things safety-wise that we have to have in place to not only have the care of our officers and our employees, but also of the village. There will be additional things, we just don't know what the cost is at this point. we should have got 2 vehicles this year. It would have been the 3-year mark. Chief Sokolnicki did not put that in here. So we're at the point of, do we, don't we? Will it matter by the time we order them? How long does that take? So we're kind of in the middle of that department and what the needs will be.
Can we hear from the chief, or you just,
No? Come on up. So I'm saying, would you like to address it?
Yeah, I'm curious to know if he's prepared to at least.
Well, based on the belt tightening theme that I'm listening to, you're probably not gonna be having what I have to say, so.
Can you come speak to a
Yeah.
microphone?
Thank you.
The people at home will appreciate it.
This has been a 2-week, what's important now analysis. So I'll give you some examples. The prep radios, the radios that the officers carry on them. Those were ordered prior to me. It was on a list of items reminding me to follow up on. I contacted the company who is going to supply those radios. They are 6 to 8 weeks out. He promises they will be here within the next couple of months. They are being programmed. They're in the queue to be programmed. There's new encryption on all these state radios. So my follow-up question to him was, well, so what we're getting is prep radios, 10 of them, which will cover each officer, as well as a new console and dispatch. And I asked him about the in-car radios, and he said that those, my predecessor declined to purchase the in-car radios this year. And my question then was, well, if we have all this encryption, how are the radios going to communicate? And his answer was, well, exactly, they won't communicate after the year 2025. So those in-car radios have to be replaced, or we'll make the prep radios that we just paid for useless. They won't be able to talk to each other due to the encryption on the systems. So those radios have to be ordered in 2025. Body armor issues. I had every officer in the department tell me when their body armor expired. The newest piece of body armor being worn on the street right now is 2 years expired, and they get older from there. As the president said, that I don't have dollar amounts on some of these. I've had the opportunity to get all the quotes in, but I have gotten 2 of the 3 quotes for body armor. We're looking at in the area of, well, one of them is $19.50 per officer, and the other one is $16.30. And this is fully equipped, by the way. This is not just the armor. This is the carrier and everything that comes along with it. The 3rd quote is coming in tomorrow, Thursday rather. The cameras in the station, one of which is at least one of which is required by state law. The one in the booking area, they don't function. The one in the booking area doesn't get audio. That one, edit one, is the one in the station that's required to have both visual and audio recordings, and it's supposed to be kept for a period of time. I had 2 companies out today and take a look at the entire system, the replacement of those cameras, as well as a request was made to have them take a look at the exterior of the building, the entire police department village hall complex, to put exterior cameras on the building, as well as a camera behind the village hall desk where they're communicating with citizens at the front counter. Obviously, that was just done today, 2 of the 3, and those numbers are not in yet. But that's a cost that's going to have to happen. And when I say don't kill the messenger, understand that in some of the research that I've been doing, this is a hole that's being dug for years, and you'll see an example of at least one of these, a hole that's been being dug for over 2 decades. Cameras in the cars. They're also failing. We have 4 cars with cameras, 1 SRO vehicle that does not have an in-car camera. 2 of the cameras are not functioning properly, and it's all due to the age of the cameras. The body cameras that all the officers wear, Unfortunately, they're a cheap brand. I don't know if that was part of the selling point, but they're cheap. And I've been told by a number of the officers that the camera works intermittently. Oftentimes they'll be talking with a citizen and realize the camera stopped, and they'll have to double push and try and get it working again while they're having the conversation. Officer Brown, for instance, he contacted Provision, the manufacturer, and was told that they don't support that model any longer, and that the only option is replacement. I've not had the opportunity to go out to some of the body camera companies to get any numbers for you on that. That was just discovered in the last few days. Tasers, all the cartridges on the tasers are 4 years expired. Not even sure that they work at this point. Several tasers have displays, screens that don't display any longer. And it appears that the most recently purchased tasers, 2 of them, were purchased via eBay. They're not from the manufacturer of Taser, which means they're not supported by Taser any longer. All of our Narcan is expired, including an entirely brand-new package in the locker room that hasn't been opened yet. We broke it open, and all of that is expired by many years. That may be remedied by just getting hold of the fire department and seeing if they can get us new Narcan. So that might be though it's what's important now issue, it might be fairly cheap to remedy. The pepper spray that all the officers carry, all of it expired in 2021. So I'm not sure how effective that is anymore either. And this, when we go out to look at the replacement of the pepper spray, that can be obtained through many sources. So, 2 patrol vehicles, as the president indicated, are overdue for replacement based on the previous 3 to 4 year rotation. I obtained this week the state bid list. I don't know if anybody knows how the patrol cars are purchased, but the state gets a bid list, and everybody purchases them from the state. They get the cheapest rate just based on volume. So I have that list. I can tell you that in 2025, the Ford Interceptors, which are the patrol cars that we have now, are going to be $42,500. And another option that has presented itself, you might notice in driving in other communities, that Chevy Tahoes are being used at high volume. So much so that they're not even available. The Chevy dealership that got the state bid that's providing all of these doesn't have any. I'm going to guess, and I can only state this from the mechanic at my previous agency who worked on some of the Tahoes, they last a lot longer. They're bigger, they're heavier, they have a bigger engine, and they can get more years out of them. So the benefit to it is if we have a typical 3 to 4 year rotation, we might be able to get 5, 6, 7 years out of a Tahoe. So I don't know what the dollar amount is going to be on those because it's not listed on the bid list yet. All it says is the price not yet available for 2025. The radar units in all of the cars are 26 years old. As an example, radar in car 405 takes several minutes to turn on, and it just simply displays fail in the digital display screen. So I've taken that one out of service. But all of the units are identical, and they're all having mechanical issues just because of aging. The MDCs, the mobile data computers, the computers in all the cars, those are also old and fairly cheap. In car 404, for example, it takes approximately 15 minutes to turn on, and the officers that drive that car say the functionality is extremely slow. As an example, if they run a license plate on a car, typically it's outside of the jurisdiction before they get any data back from that unit. I have reached out to 2 platforms, Clemis and New World, to start having conversations with them on potential replacement of those units. I don't have any financial numbers for you in that regard. The body armor, I gave you a price. I have started the grant process, which, if approved, would get us half We would have to purchase the body armor, and they would reimburse us for 50% of the cost. The generator, I attended a Macomb County Emergency Management meeting last week rather, and one of the gentlemen who's presenting encouraged everybody in the room to put in for a grant if we have a generator project pending. He said that there's money for it, and nobody's putting in for it. So I have the details on that. I'm looking into that now. He alleges that that would also be a reimbursement issue. We would have to pay for the generator, but then FEMA would reimburse 75% of the cost. So that process has been started. And if we get to a point where we want to accredit the agency down the road, I'm in conversations with MACP and the Department of Justice on accreditation grants as well. So maybe some money coming back to us, but again, I don't have the final numbers on that, but conversations that we're having. But the equipment is in complete disarray, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
As far as the vests, the body armor, what's the turnaround time to get those once you order them?
6 to 8 weeks is kind of the general information I'm getting. Now, the third company tomorrow just happens to be a company that is local. They're here in Macomb County, but we used them when I was employed with West Bloomfield, and they provided fantastic service, so we'll see what his turnaround is. But in my recollections, it was quicker than 6 weeks, so.
And are you anticipating having those bids together and ordering them soon, or what's?
As soon as I get Thursday's bid, we'll make a decision. I already have, when I say I don't have numbers on a lot of this stuff, it's because it's brand new information. The
Yeah.
vests I've been working on since I walked in the door, I do have the numbers on 2 of the 3. I don't have the third just because they haven't provided their bid yet, so.
Okay.
So hopefully by Thursday, we'll be able to start having that conversation on who we go with.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
had this conversation with Chief Dan before we had hired Chief Roy here, didn't we? Yeah, because he sat here and indicated that we did bring up the vest.
Mhm.
And, so, I mean, it's not, I mean, I wish you would have got on it then. Then you wouldn't have to,
I wish you would have got on it 3 years ago before they expired.
yes, yeah, true.
Yeah.
You do have a grant writer for the assistance that you're going to,
What do you mean?
for the police vest. Do you write a grant for those? I thought I heard you say something about some type of assistance or cost-cutting measure for the purchase of the vest.
No, I've identified some grants so far that may cover the cost, but that grant would be written by me.
Oh, they're written by you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you are the grant writer then. Okay. Well, anything we can do to help?
And depending on how the bids all come back, it will be on the agenda for next month if needed. If they come in under what's necessary for approval, then we're just going to order them.
Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of wondering.
It just depends.
Okay.
Any other questions?
You mentioned about the couple of the vehicles like are on their last leg,
Yes, sir.
and there's the state has a rotation of,
Well, it's not the state, it's our rotation that, historically, they've rotated the vehicles here, from my understanding, every 3 to 4 years. And it's not been based on mileage, it's been based on the age of the car. And 2 of them are due to be replaced.
when they do get replaced, it's probably not, it's probably hoping too much, but the equipment doesn't come with them like that.
No.
I didn't
No.
think so. It'd be nice if it did, though.
That's one of the reasons why I'm contacting Clemens and having that conversation with them.
Okay.
A lot of this has transpired because this equipment it not only has a shelf life, which is not, I mean, it's an electronic device, these things are turning over quickly. So they have a shelf life, but they have to be supported too, and replaced periodically, and we have not been, it doesn't appear that we've been keeping up on that. For instance, the data server in dispatch that captures the cameras inside the building appears to be full, and it can't be serviced anymore, it's so old. So that will be that's part of the bid for these companies coming in to look at the camera systems inside the building for their replacement, will be to replace that. Possibly not with the server this time, possibly through the cloud. That's typically where things go now. You just purchase storage in the cloud. I know that's where Clemens stores all of theirs. And one of the benefits we had when we used Clemens, and I understand that some of the agencies in Macomb County, though it's run by Oakland County, they contract with Clemens for their devices, is that Clemens handles all that. They handle the storage, they handle the installation, they handle the updates, and they keep the records on that, and they remind you when this work needs to be done. If we decide to go with some kind of an internal device like we have now, well, that's okay, but that'll be on me. I'll keep a spreadsheet so that I'll know when things have to be updated, when things have to be replaced, so that we don't run into this problem again. But we've run into the perfect storm here, where everything is kind of going bad all at once.
That was sort of my next question is, I'm hoping that all of these different things have different shelf lives. So once we get everything in place, it's not
The
all
same
coming
thing.
due again at the same time. They're all kind of going to be staggered or
Yeah.
planned to
Well,
be
not only
staggered.
that, we will plan.
Yeah.
There's not been a plan.
Yeah.
Another thing to note is, as you were saying with the planning commission and training, the police department has less money in training than the planning commission. That will need to change. We have training that needs to be done, should have been done, and isn't. So that is another line item that you're going to see that's going to need to increase significantly, especially if we're going to talk about sergeant, lieutenant, whatever they will need to go to staff and command. There's going to need to be increased training just if we start to do superior staff in that manner. So the fact that we have 8, 9 officers with less money for training than our planning commission is not appropriate.
Okay, agreed.
No questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update. Dire streets.
Okay, so with all that in mind, again, kind of back to what we first talked about, stressing the fact that while, yes, the general fund could support all these road projects, we also have a lot of capital needs within the general fund. So keep in mind for the next couple weeks, couple months, what do you want to do to help fund those items? And we can also have that discussion again at a later time. Once we have those numbers, we can rerun the analysis and see how it shakes out. So kind of back to where we were at in the general fund. So we're projecting this year to add about $500,000 to fund balance in fiscal year '24. And about $678,000 in fiscal year '25. However, again, that will change. Now that we have the bids back, we will have to change the transfer to the municipal street fund in order to keep it out of a fund deficit to fund the East Side Road project. So those numbers will change. However, it still looks like we are in a very good position, fund balance-wise, for now, until we can make those decisions that need to be made with what we just heard, along with the road analysis. Are there any other questions on general fund? Is there any other departments you'd like to look at? We just had a good in-depth discussion about the police department. Was there anything else you had questions on, you wanted to look at in detail?
I'm just looking here real quick, and I don't know where it falls. I was looking for the training for the police department.
Sure.
like
So
3,000.
police.
3,000, did someone say?
It is, it's less than 4,000, it's less than the planning commission gets.
And we have 9 officers?
We have the ability, we don't currently have, we were not at full staff, but yes, we had 8 officers and chief.
Yeah.
Okay.
The budget requested was $3,120 from the previous police chief.
And we do our best when it comes to training, to do anything that is free or collaborative or Macomb Community, and Chief also recently is going to put us into, is it Oakland also?
So both Oakland Community College, Oakland Police Academy, and Macomb Community College and Police Academy have small agency discount programs, where Oakland Community College, for instance, has a whole list of classes that if you pay basically your yearly stipend, which essentially, in their words, is the state stipend that I believe they've already sent, like $1,500. They will accept that, and there's about 2 pages of classes that are free.
Free, yeah. So we do take any measures we can to reduce that as best as we can, but there are times that we can't. Also going to start looking at more frequent training with smaller neighboring communities, so that the more of us that gather together, the better the prices, you know, that sort of thing. Offsetting costs as much as we can.
Do you have an ideal in mind for your training budget?
We talked about it.
Might be right
It wants it to
there.
be, yeah, it wants it to be appropriate, but not too much that we say no. I said, to me, considering if we have $4,000 for a planning commission of 9, I would see at least doubling that for actual officer training, and should we need to go over, we readdress it at that point, or we make an amendment when needed. But they need at least 8 to 10. If it's not used, it's still there, if we need, whichever side we'd like to be on.
Right.
But go ahead.
If there's a motion in accordance with the next budget, and we send this person to staff enhancement, that's probably going to be in the area of $4,000. Those are not short schools. I don't know, Northwestern issues. That's what I would recommend. That's kind of the gold standard, the original. But that was 10 months. So it's expensive, but it's not like you're paying $4,000 for a 2-week class.
Right,
It's a long journey, so.
okay.
They're not cheap, and that gives you an idea that would, our budget, our training budget as written right now, would cover that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so is that a change you would like to see in the budgets that's presented for approval? Because we can make that change.
Yeah,
We're going to need to raise it.
Okay,
and
I
why
would-
don't you take half of it from planning commission if they're not gonna use it anyway? I mean, it'd be nice to encourage that, and I'm sure if they need more, we can address it at that time, but
True.
if they're not gonna use it, just take it.
okay, we
Yeah.
can make that change. And reduce planning commission to 2.
Essentially, our treasurer also has 4. So, I mean, it just shows you how much offset that number is for a whole department when a treasurer has 4 or the planning commission has 4. It just,
Yeah.
well, even just our table, we have, I think, 4 between all of us.
That's what I was kind of just scanning through to see where else, like,
You want to be, we want to be adequately trained and have an understanding of our job, but we also don't need to go to a paid training for a vacation, or
right.
if it's not needed.
I'd say the council's only used 1,600 so far.
I don't know.
I believe so. I think that's what's on
I
there.
know at a certain
60,
point,
40.
yeah, it should be more, because I went to the
But it's come
planning.
out of 9, I've shared with you.
Yeah,
So,
Leaving more
yes,
for you
as
guys.
of April 11th, so this report was run on April 11th. So as of April 11th, yes, $1,600 was used.
and what are the clerks? Yours is almost used, isn't it?
I think
It's
so.
close,
It's close, yeah, 'cause
Sorry.
we split it, and I have,
yeah. Because I've on,
Clerk is at 14 today.
in some, I can't recall if it was the president conference or the planning conference was pulled out of your, one or the other, something about it.
one of those.
Because we were unsure on how ours was going to look, and we knew that hers wasn't going to need it all, so we pulled out of that one to leave more for, at this table.
Oh, so you can use it out of that
It's-
fund?
Yep.
to a
It's not
degree.
line item, right?
Okay.
So,
And treasurers use 22 out of 44. We could probably pull some from each one of those.
Yeah.
She does plan to continue to isn't it a 2-year course for
The
treasurer?
3-year, she's
Yeah.
So she
completed
will
2.
still need, don't take, don't
Yeah,
cut her knees,
she-
don't cut her legs
budget.
off. But-
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have to get the up-to-date number on that too, because I believe she just went to the Michigan Treasurers Association
Yep.
conference. That was about a week ago, and this report was ran at 4/11.
Yeah.
So that cost has probably increased.
And don't get me wrong, I'm all for training and ongoing education, but our treasurer seems pretty adept at what she does, like,
But also because she's gone to training.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a, 3-year course.
3-year course, yeah, she has to complete it or she has to start all over.
Oh, Lord. Did Sherry do it?
No,
No.
nope, she did not.
No. That's our choice.
Yeah,
You're-
I'd prefer to see a little. A little from everybody, like Zach said.
Anything else about general fund? Speak now, because this is the time to talk about general fund, so if you want to get nitpicky, get nitpicky.
Do we have, if residents are going to be doing their sidewalks at all, do we have the funding in there? I know last year we talked about taking a lot of it out.
I believe that's in the municipal street fund, which
I
is the
say
next fund
not
we're going
really,
over.
because
Yeah,
we
it's
are
not
trying to
general.
use that to offset our,
Yes, we did.
any of the sidewalk work needed with the roads. Trying to drive those costs down as much as we can with the road.
We're not pushing it, but it's still.
It's available, it's in the ordinance, if someone does it and they come in for half, absolutely. The program that we had previously, there's nobody here to maintain it. At that point in time, there was part-time staff in the office that ran it. Trustee Bartholomew assisted. There's nobody to care for that program. And it does take a lot of tracking and maintenance. Just can't do it.
And what about, instead of replacing entire slabs, having them leveled? If their slab is good and it just needs to be leveled, can we support that even, which is much more affordable usually?
It's not how the ordinance reads. It's a, sorry.
It's not
the-
included,
It's the amount of
just replacement.
product, 50% of product is how it's stated.
So it might be something to consider, if it's a more affordable option and it just needs to be leveled versus replaced, it's a win-win for everybody. To level versus,
I don't know how the manpower of it, is the cost in hours less or more that people would actually find that advantageous? I don't know. As opposed to
Yeah,
ripping it out and redoing, I don't know that.
Yeah, usually,
Some
Yes.
residents have had it done on their own, the leveling.
yeah.
You just mentioned something, stuck. You said, it, and you're correct, it's half of the product, is all the ordinance said.
Correct.
When this
Correct.
project was happening, past administration was covering.
Well, that
half
was,
the cost.
in that project, we approved the scope of how it was done.
It's a match.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 50/50.
So
If you
that's-
guys want to address the ordinance, then let's open up the ordinance. But as it's stated, that is what we are allowed to do.
So we're opening ourselves up to inequality if someone wants to say, I'm treated different than,
We don't have the program anymore.
Yeah, but we went out and selected which ones were getting done,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't give everyone the opportunity to take advantage of that at that time. Like, if a street wasn't getting done, they just didn't jump over and do that street because someone wanted to take advantage of.
Yeah, there was no rhyme or reason. I asked it many different times if we could have some sort of order or plan to it, and there wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to initiate it, bring it back, then take the part-time office and make it a full-time at the moment. But as it stands, there's nobody else to keep track of that.
well, I don't know that we have to like keep track so much as, like you said, either change the ordinance or let people know for this amount of time, this is what we're offering, and it's up to them if they choose to go do it and bring the receipt in. Like, we don't have to go walking the streets again and figuring it out. I just feel like it's very, very unfair and a potential liability if we don't offer that same opportunity. Like Justin said, you know, Trustee Bartholomew started and picked and choose. It wasn't like the whole village had that opportunity. And I think we really need to be consistent with that.
So we change the ordinance to just state half the cost instead of half of material,
Either way,
then we've made it fair.
yeah, that
We
might,
have to
Okay.
look at that.
Well, and we can if you'd like to change it, but also find the money if we're going to be offering more.
What is happening with the DPW telephone where it went from 20 grand to $93 to $1,800?
Where are we at?
DPW
101.
101441.
All
This
the-
telephone, we've spent 15 grand last year, and we budgeted 20 grand this year, but we're only projected $93. What, I don't know what's going on.
Well, the phones that were no longer in use but were continuing to be billed have been closed.
It's that much money?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's 14 grand.
After we
for the
switched over phone systems at DPW, we had to shut down the unused ones.
That's absurd.
that's just one department, Nolan.
Right.
Oh my
You should have heard
gosh.
me
It was,
last year with the budget. Poor Catherine, every time we
Last
got to
year,
a telephone, I'm like, oh my, I mean, literally,
It
some of
was-
them were $15,000-$20,000.
Yes.
And Catherine has spent the past year, like,
Years.
digging out of that hole.
Years,
Yeah.
plural. It's been taking a while, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it seems like every 3 months I get a new email
I was
saying,
gonna say, and
I'm
it-
your manager, your account manager, let's talk.
No, you're not.
And it didn't start really, we refused to continue to pay for it. And that's really when they finally took action. And
Yes.
when I said, do not pay that bill.
Yeah.
Right.
$10,000 for what? Something we don't have? Do not pay that bill. And so finally, that's when she got some ground.
Yep, and
Yeah.
everything else is being shut down, so now we have a better grasp on our
So that
actual
could
used
be-
phone lines.
Good.
Yeah, that could be some of our phone lines then, because we were spending last year, what was it, $100,000 or something for, it
It
was a
was large.
lot, 90,000 for phones. And if this year, it's obviously I
Mhm.
scanned. So maybe that, just that in and of itself will help pay for a few slabs of concrete.
So I mean, even
Yes.
at that, do we still need to project $1,800?
Mhm.
For
Yes,
me.
because we got a large credit. So you see how it's negative 146?
Yeah,
So
I
for this
gotcha.
year, with the
Yes.
credits, we're only gonna pay $93, but then
Okay.
we will start to pay monthly
Okay.
Yeah,
bills.
the credits started
next year.
rolling in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was
That's
the
awesome.
end of the program,
Mhm.
hopefully. Yep. You're welcome. I forgot about the credits.
You need water?
I know, it shows negative.
There's
on
water
there.
in there.
There is
In the back.
Months, too.
That's all gone?
What's happening?
Oh, sorry. Buy more. Catherine, do we have more water in the,
Bottom drawer, or in the,
there's
bottom
none
drawer.
back here,
checked,
but
they're
down here?
out.
Bottom drawer, under the soundboard.
I don't know, I thought you bought a lot when, the last time we restocked it.
Should be unlocked.
Here you go.
Oh, thank you. Did you want one?
Are we good with general fund? If so, we're going to move on to municipal streets, but I don't want to rush anybody.
There's the store.
I think for now, we're good.
Chief, I'd say if you wanted to take off, you were more than welcome. Go try to stay dry, I can hear
Yeah, do you
it.
have an umbrella?
Chief, real quick, when do you expect to have the majority of these bids back?
Well, I hope to have all the best, body armor bids by the end of the week. And that's the primary point. Who's gonna drop over and body armor that can be not work. I gave the example of the newest ones too, but it gets worse from there, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not even from our department, right? That one came from, oh, that one is from our, yeah.
He's the only one that has body armor that's not expired.
And it didn't even come from us.
So, but back to the question, the camera, two of the camera bids, or bidders were brought in today to get their own analysis. Hopefully, those will come in by the end of the week, I'm hoping. I still have to find a third company that is as comprehensive as we need, relative to the equipment, like the body cameras, the in-car cameras, and mobile video computers, in-car computers. There are two platforms. Well, either we use the version that we use now, which is an independent source, or we go with a platform like Clem's, or there's some agencies and companies that use a system called Newsroom. I'm not familiar at all with Newsroom, but I'm gonna have a conversation with them. Unfortunately, everybody I've talked to, including agencies around us that use Newsroom, have zero good things to say about it. So, but I hope to have those meetings booked next week. Hopefully calls to Clemens, they're busy, they support agencies all over Macomb County, because they're in the Macomb County system. Much of Macomb County, a lot of agencies in Livingston County, Washington, and many agencies in Wayne, so they're very vast as far as the data that's inputted. So I don't know if that, I can't give you a specific date, but I'm hoping to at least have those meetings by next week, if I can get them to respond.
So it's by the end, we won't have time to get the majority of that on our agenda then, if we need to, for this one.
It will roll in when it rolls in, and we'll put it on appropriately. And for the cameras, we had a whole, while they were out here quoting it, a whole scope. It is à la carte, though. Cameras in the front office are not the necessity, the need right now. Depending on how much it costs is a whole, we need to see it, to see if we're gonna, but that, oh.
That was close.
But that is not the intent. The intent is to get what has to be done, and everything else was quoted,
Gotcha.
while they were here.
So the camera in the booking, if you're familiar with PD,
Just freaked out.
we have other cameras clearly are necessary. The one in the booking room, that one's mandated by state law.
Yeah.
It's not of course, it's not in accordance with state law. It's actually illegal right now. If something were to happen in that room, and it was brought to the attention of the attorney, or.
So I argue that's emergency, and that doesn't even need to come before us, and that needs to get done, and ASAP.
Could be a major lawsuit.
And we'll take care of it.
Awesome, not awesome, but, thank you.
Thank you.
Careful out there, chief.
Good first week and a half.
Put a Ring doorbell in there, that'll work for a little bit.
And then someone taps into that. Okay, if we're
Yep.
all
That's fine.
sufficient in general, let's move on to municipal streets.
Okay, so Municipal Street Fund is Fund 204. Fiscal year '25 focus, as we have been discussing throughout this meeting, is the street improvement project related to the east side of the village. We received the bids, so we will make an amendment to this budget for your approval based on the bids, and you'll get a new schedule. We also have a street improvement project that's kind of wrapped into that for $683,000. We've split that between 33% this fiscal year, 67% in the next fiscal year for work on East Washington, Dorsey, and East Lafayette, and that's being offset by a $250,000 grant from MDOT. So those are the highlights of the municipal street fund. So, looking at the 2024 projected, we're expecting to use $2 million of fund balance. That is the bond money that we have right now. And then next fiscal year, based on, again, this is based on original estimates, so we'll have to give you updated now that we have the bids in. We were going to use $1.4 million of the bond money. As we all saw, that's probably not going to be enough, so we will increase that transfer in from the general fund to cover that, to keep that fund out of a deficit for next fiscal year. Oh, I had it all in one slide. General fund I had to split because it was too big. This one I was able to get all in one. We do have a budget for sidewalks. in that, included in there. That's part of the bid, so we've split that out from the bond money to replace those sidewalks. There's, everything else in there is pretty much status quo, except for the East Side Road project, which is obviously the biggest item. Was there any further discussion or deliberation you would like to have on the East Side Road projects that we haven't already discussed, now that we've had a little time to digest what else is needed in the general fund? I understand it's a big decision and a big dollar amount, so.
Yes, no? Otherwise, we're going to move on.
Oh, that's it.
Okay.
That's all we had. scheduled for
Well, we
tonight.
have our proposed fund balance policy. This is
Yes.
not in here because we are asking for action tonight. This is here, this was an intention for a general council meeting, but felt that you needed this information now when you're thinking about the whole of the budget. So you will also see this in our May council meeting. Fund balance policy is best practices. My concern is the future. This puts into perspective how much the village should always have in reserves, not spend in excess of, so that we don't have a board, a president, anybody come in at some point in time, see all this money sitting here and go, oh, well, we can do that, and start spending. This puts you in check, that we make sure we have certain amount in reserve. We don't go past a threshold. There's language in here that at times, if you need to, you can, and then there's rules on, or wording on how we backfill. This, to me, is a safeguard to the residents' money.
Isn't there state requirements that already
There are suggestions.
establish or
I don't know that there's requirements.
There's no requirements. The only thing the state requires is that you don't go into a deficit.
Okay.
You don't go below zero. There's best practices, there's recommendations based on if you're a village or a city or a township. This balance, our fund balance policy in front of you is based on village and what we've seen in other villages, what they have and
And we
how
even
they
asked them
perform.
to err on the side of more
Yes.
for
Right.
reserve. I just like that extra layer of protection for all of us. When you see money is available to be spent, that often makes you want to spend it. And we need to be conservative in that manner.
Yeah.
So we have put extra in reserve.
And just to clarify on this too, this is only the general fund, specifically in regards to unrestricted money, meaning that it hasn't been either legally restricted, like your Act 51 money, your gas tax money. That is restricted. You can only use that on roads. This is the free money that's sitting out there that can be used for buying
This
police
is like
cars.
the 200
Yeah.
in interest bearing, that sort of stuff.
Yes.
To your knowledge, is there other municipalities or villages that use a similar policy to this, or do they
Oh, yeah.
just kind of,
Oh,
okay.
It's,
No, there's similar policy to this. Some are more restrictive. So this one has 2 tiers. I've seen them set a upper and a lower bound, saying we will not go above X. If we do, here's a remediation. That's a great problem to have. Not many people have that problem, but the one that is in front of you with the 2-tier is kind of the most common.
Okay.
It's easiest to understand. And this is flexible. This is a proposed fund balance policy. If there's something in here you don't like, it's a policy. It's not a law. So we can make any changes you feel necessary.
right. But it just also helps as we're making decisions. Our question in our mind now will not only be, where is that in the budget? It will say, how does that then fit into our fund balance policy?
Yeah, in our plan, which on the analysis that I brought up at the very beginning of the meeting, this fund balance policy was in that. So that $500,000 that we were talking about that would be left over, that's applying this policy.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
That's what she was meaning, that we would be 500 over or 1.5 over the fund balance policy. And that's why I wanted you guys to see it. It will be on the May agenda, so dig into it, look at the other municipalities, see if there's something else you would like adjusted.
And this is something that will be easy to monitor, it's not,
Yes, it's very simple. So if you want to look at it quickly, we can look at the meat of it. So under level 2, levels of fund balance. For the general fund, so you have 2 tiers, kind of 2 reserve buckets, if you will. So tier 1 is the fact that property taxes are levied at the beginning of our fiscal year, and then we spend it down. So we would always have 3 months of operating expenditures in reserve
gotcha, okay.
to fund operations should something happen. So that's one bucket. And then the second bucket is it's kind of your in case of emergency fund of any unfunded one-time expenditures, any, kind of like the financial crash in 2008, everybody's property taxes plummeted. We had to recover from that. Those kind of unanticipated drops in revenue, things of that nature, that's your second tier. And the recommendation is between 50 to 100% of any expenditures, operational expenditures in that year. So we would take capital out of that. You can choose 50, you can choose 80, you can choose 100. Just the range is recommended to be between 50 and 100%. Obviously, 100% is more conservative, 50% is on the lower end.
So this is currently in place?
No,
or
it's
is
not.
this
No, this is
It is
what's
not
Being
in place.
proposed.
Proposed?
It's proposed.
but
Yeah,
we're-
we don't have a fund
we're
balance policy.
discussing This as it is in place, or that's what you're.
Yeah, on the bid analysis, if we were to implement this, this is where you would be.
Well, we could already be satisfying it without this policy being in place.
Yes.
We might just,
And we are, but what we're doing is showing you that if we do this, we currently, in planning our budget, are marrying
Right.
it up together.
Yes.
You don't have
Makes
to do
sense.
it, say you don't want it.
So
I
going
like the
forward,
idea.
let's say you were to adopt this policy, every time we bring you in a budget amendment or do a budget for the next fiscal year, we would include this calculation to show you. Yes,
And then-
if you buy $1 million worth of capital, either you are in compliance with your policy or you are not. If you are not, there's a safeguard in here to say, if you fall below the bare minimum, you have 1 year to make it up in the next year. So you'd have to generate a surplus in the next year to replace it. Because things do happen. You know, God forbid, a bunch of police cars get totaled. I had that happen in a municipality I work at. We had to buy like 3 cop cars in 1 year. Right? So things like that happen. And so that safeguard is in here in case things like that happen. You don't have to be like, well, we can't buy a police car because we're going to violate our policy. No, we'll just adjust for it in the next fiscal year.
Hopefully it's followed.
Yeah, I appreciate
other
it.
policies that have gotten pushed to the side, overlooked.
Well, that's what policies are. Like she said, it's not a law,
Yeah, exactly.
That's
but
fine.
at least
Yeah.
having it in the back of our minds and at least being able to address it. We could put this in place and in 10 years with a different council, they could trash it. But what we're doing is doing due diligence, saying we set this as a policy, these are best practices that we would like to follow and ensure.
Has
And-
legal looked it over? Mark?
He's been given it, I couldn't answer if he's looked it over yet or not.
Your attorneys have looked this over? and-
Our attorneys would not look this over. This
No.
is a municipality document. Our attorneys would not look at this and make an opinion.
So there's nothing else, I think I know the answer, but short of an ordinance, there's no other way to make this more secure unless we need an actual ordinance. Because like you said, I can see that, you know, like, well, it's just a policy and we're gonna kind of,
Ordinance, I think, is about all we could do, because we can't
I
institute.
have seen this as an
law.
ordinance. I've also seen it as part of a charter. Not
As
this
part of a
particular
what?
policy, but a fund balance policy.
Yeah.
I know you don't have a charter, I'm just
Yeah,
saying
we
as an
can't.
example.
We're general law
For you, it'd
village
be
and
an
it's set,
ordinance.
we can't adjust
yeah,
what it says.
okay.
And you could put in there, and I don't know if policy, but in ordinance, you could put something in there of to change this, you need majority, or you need 2/3, or you need 2/3 of the whole council, not just present. You can put tight language into it to kind of make it a little harder to change it or to not follow.
Yeah, I'd like to see that actually.
so you want to see it elevated from just a policy to an ordinance?
Yeah, because anyone can ignore a policy, and I believe in this type of situation. And I looked at, you know, it gives us enough wiggle room, even in the future. It gives anybody enough wiggle room, but it just holds a standard
Mhm.
and.
I mean, anybody essentially can be elected, right? And if someone doesn't understand how budgeting and planning work,
Mhm.
they could just put the
Right.
village very quickly into the wrong position.
So I'd like to see it hold a little bit more
Yeah.
accountability.
Yeah, at that point, I'd probably like to see it a little more thorough, like you said, with more language of what if scenario if we're not satisfying it, or if it's not being followed, what it would take to change it or modify it.
Well, I mean, in the meantime of the May meeting, send to me in a separate sole email, or however you would like to get it to me, what
Mhm.
you would like put in it, so that I can start getting it created in the way that we would like. Because it seems like we'll probably take a few months to get there.
Right.
So if you start giving me language now, can get it in there.
I mean, we could always adopt this as a policy next month.
Yeah, and
then-
continue,
good.
correct,
Continue from
continue to
there.
work on each ordinance, either way. Okay, good conversation. We need to set 2 more budget dates. Next Tuesday, we have our road asset plan that we all chose that date. So next Tuesday is out of the question, but also, when are you available for 2 more dates?
So,
What you keep in mind, I'm sorry, Matt, is typically Mondays is the only good day for Matt.
No, he said Tuesdays. That's why we made it a Tuesday.
No, he went along with it. He's typically can guarantee Mondays are good, because then he's out of town Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Gotcha.
So he can always guarantee a Monday.
Well, we can't do the 1st or the 3rd.
Memorial.
27th is Memorial, and that puts us in, so.
okay, so we're not coming next week, the 14th, correct? Is that what we're saying?
You are
No,
not,
we are
correct.
not.
Okay, all right, we have that, we currently
are,
have
but
that
you-
on our calendar, so we'll take that off.
Yeah, we are, but you are
Okay.
not.
All right,
Or we do like tonight and we have a meeting without Matt, unfortunately. It's the council's purview, how would you like to continue?
Do what tonight? Select the meeting dates?
Well, I'm saying if we don't pick a Monday that is the best suited for Matt, we have a meeting down a member.
Yeah, we just keep going, just pick the dates.
If our June meeting is on the 17th.
Yep.
This has to be approved by the
30.
30th.
mm-hmm,
If we do the 3rd and the 10th
Mm-hmm.
of June, that's two Mondays in June. That gives Matt time to be here if he can. Hopefully everyone can. And then we meet on the 17th, and then if we have to have another meeting after that
mm-hmm.
for a special approval, we can do so.
Are you ladies available on the 3rd
I
and
am
the 10th?
available the 3rd, I am available the 10th. Would that be at 7 o'clock?
Correct.
Okay. I will say too, that for the meeting on the 20th of May, we will need to approve the tax rates because the treasurer needs time to print the tax bills. So that will be approved separate from the budget then, which is fine. You don't have to approve them together.
Is that a public hearing though?
I think so, yes.
We
Should be.
wouldn't have time to publish it for
Okay.
May 20th.
Okay.
Her and I had this discussion this morning. There wouldn't be enough time to publish it. We would have to have had it, the tax rates, to me, May 3rd,
Okay.
to put in the paper, and it would have had to have been published in the paper yesterday.
Okay.
So we're not finishing 204, we're just doing the first section of it.
What did you want to continue?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were done discussing it. I can bring it back up. Okay.
So would that be another special, or we could do it at June 3rd?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do it then.
We'll have to do it at June, I'd have to make that a public hearing then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I know to publish that,
Yeah,
and then the actual,
yeah, yeah. They can be separate. They don't have to be together. Yeah.
all right.
Okay. I have 204 back up. Sorry, I thought we were done discussing it. We didn't get any questions.
No, so the one that popped up for me, especially looking at cutting, was the village beautification lines.
Mhm.
And currently, we're at 45,000, we're budgeting 80 for next year. Is that something
I was gonna say, I feel like that's trees.
Trees are
Yeah.
indoor sidewalks, but it's not sidewalks. I believe that's we were doing the trees.
Can you look at what we paid out of beautification?
I mean, it's just kind of-
Julie's gonna look up what gets paid out of there in just a minute.
I feel like that's the trees.
Yes, I believe that is the trees.
I
But
believe that's the only
Julie's gonna look
thing.
at some invoices real quick and see what's
Okay.
getting paid out of there specifically.
I mean, you could do that, but I'll tell you what, we don't even what we do spend isn't enough. There is so much need for the maintenance of the easement trees and any other trees that we would need, that
Okay,
it's
it's the trees that gets paid out of there.
I think that's it.
essentially what we did or what we have done is we've had at least 40 and we do 5 8-hour days, cover the 40. And those days fly. I mean,
It's sort of tough to leave that in there at that amount when the chief rambled off when we got somewhere around 100,000 in expenses, pretty easy, not including vehicles.
Should do it, please.
You know, if that's 90 in vehicles plus another $75,000 to $100,000, and we're throwing another 40 at trimming trees, I don't know, that's,
and it's not even, it is partly trimming, but it's also taking down dangerous. I don't know what else we would do, where else we would pull from for that. When residents
I mean,
call,
is that number pretty current, the 45? I mean, as of
As of 4/11?
4/11,
Yeah.
so.
What is
I
it
just
now?
told, we have 1 day left. So
It's about
essentially, we use
45?
4. We hold on to the last because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't want to spend it all. So I just told Tim this week, I said, hey, we got 2 months left. Go take that last day of trees. We're close enough that we could do it at this point.
So this is money for, is this, he's overseeing the contract, it's not
Yes.
DPW doing this, so.
And it's the contractor that has all the equipment that that they have the ability to take down multiple, huge trees, bring them down safely, grind the stump, and do 4 or 5 in a day if that was needed, while also doing trimming. Which is fine. When the residents call, I'll need to know what to tell them to do.
If we're at 45, currently we're going to 55, I mean, we can pull 20 out of that to utilize somewhere else that's needed. Yeah,
Just
leave it at 60.
Still leave it, increase it a bit, but not.
I mean, in 22, 23, we did hit 60. We had budgeted 90 this year, only using 45, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, as of right now, 45, but now it's nice out, so they might start trimming trees again. So we might have invoices come in through June
Yeah.
30th.
It's up to 60,
Mhm.
you know, so.
I see what you're saying.
If we're budgeting 80, let's, do we look at doing 60, move 20, or do we use, or that's with PD, or
Well, what would happen is if we were to do that,
however that needs.
we would reduce the 80 to 20, and that would reduce the transfer needed from the general fund into the municipal streets fund. That's how that would work. This is a whole separate fund from where the PD's at.
If I could address also with police, in the changeover of chiefs, we have saved a significant amount of money, around 100, in not having to pay pensions. So just so that you're aware, there is a very large savings. Obviously, you recognize that in the first year and only that year. So just note that that is there.
And to be fair, let's just use the example number of 100 grand, just because that may need to be spent, that's typically what his budget would have been worked on. Whatever happened before he got here may have, it might have had to go towards other things that were equally or more pressing. But, I mean, that's what his existing budget is already for. So he might need to spend 100 on what he told us today, but
Is it-
he might already have 40 or 50 of that, and he doesn't need 100 increase. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like he's prioritizing a lot of really important
We got streets,
things.
We got roads, we got all this other stuff going on.
Right.
so.
This is why it's important that you do not plant trees in your easements. This is why I would also like to see if we would start some sort of policy that if we have a tree that is within a certain circumference, it is taken down now as opposed to waiting for it to become a cost down the road. But that's for a different time.
So is there anything else in 204 that?
All that trees in easements.
pretty costly.
I don't even, we just gotta carry a rider.
Anything else? 204.
Good.
Okay. All right, so we will plan on the 3rd and the 10th to discuss the other funds budget
Okay.
with the aim of adopting on June 17th, it sounds like. That sounds like the hearing for the.
Do we want to
bills.
make a motion?
For those dates,
Yes.
do we need a motion?
I prefer, let's put it out there.
I'll make a motion to select June 3 and June 10, 7 PM for both days as our next meeting dates to go over the rest of the budget.
Support?
So we have a motion by Care, support by Bartholomew. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Care, support by Fowler. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is 8:46.